All right, guys, welcome back to the Discovering Eden podcast. My name is Brandon.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Arctic.
And we didn't even think Jonathan was going to be here today.
Neither did I.
Yeah. We thought he'd be falling from the
I
sky.
was supposed to be jumping out of a plane today, but they canceled on me last minute. So I'm going to be jumping out of a plane next week. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Maybe.
as long as it's not windy.
Weather permitting. Otherwise, I'll be here.
God willing. But yeah, so we'll be talking about, well, an amalgamation of different things today. That's putting it da-dunch.
Yeah, I was going
to for a little bit of what we're talking about, chimeras and stuff.
and stuff.
Stuff is
Subtlety, right?
This, yeah.
Anyway, we need prayer, like every week.
Yeah.
So we didn't even talk about this before. Who wants to pray?
I'll pray.
Okay.
Lord, thank you for this time together. We thank you for your word, for your spirit, for your leading, for your wisdom. We thank you for just being able to talk about all these amalgamations and crazy, what ifs and what's to come and all these ideas and that, and just different mythologies and legends and everything that comes with that, Lord. So we just ask for your leading in this conversation, that you would speak to us, speak through us, be with us. We just thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Let's get to the bumper and then let's dive into it.
It's fall time.
Gaming. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Should have like a B-roll of us talking during during the actual bumper.
That'd be great.
Somehow Mike forget to like mute us or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, we're talking. Oh, whoops, we're not supposed to be talking right now. Oh well. So, again, as a reminder of where this conversation is going or has come from, this is the last of the three eames that we were talking about. So you had the seraphim that we talked about with Naga's Gorgons. And then you had the griffins and everything for the cherubim. And now we kind of tie into that a little bit, kind of finishing off last week's cherubim with chimeras, and kind of again flowing into the Nephilim side. So, and what that entails, and potentially other religious or other myths, legends, what have you, epics, tales, good old Homer. But regardless, let's start with chimeras. What are they?
What aren't they?
That's the better question.
Yeah. I mean, a mix of anything, so.
So, it's basically it's a creation of Play-Doh. Okay, so you have one animal, you have another animal, and you mush them together. Congratulations! Don't eat the Play-Doh.
Yeah. Like a griffin, though.
Yeah. So, for example, the reason why a griffin would be considered a chimera is because it's, well, an eagle and lion mashed together. Now, what do chimera, stand for, if you will? What's the significance of a chimera? Is it to highlight the different aspects of the different animals depicted? Or is it actually based off of something legit or real?
Good question. I mean, if you want to look at, the classical chimera, if you will, it was what was it? Lion.
I have a
goat,
picture of this.
yeah, on the back and a snake on the tail.
Yeah.
I have a picture of
There you
this.
And this is what kind of your typical what
Yeah.
everybody
Greek-
kind of thinks of.
Yeah, your
So what-
classical Greek.
So your classical Greek chimera, snake for the tail, you got the ram or goat on the, and then as a head or whatever, and the lion as a head.
Yeah.
So, kind of like Manticore, but not really. Again, it's an amalgamation. It looks grotesque,
Yeah.
and well,
It's an abomination, is what it
It
is.
is.
it's an abomination. And something that I feel like is often associated with beings of this nature are like demons and other things like that. Now, I didn't look all too closely into like Greek, religion or myth or different things about chimeras, but I would imagine it kind of goes around those same veins. Or you look at some of these things, and this is something, I'm just looking at this image right now, and something comes to mind, and I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. So, and I know we brought up this conversation with Seraphim as kind of like a perversion of the truth, like a perversion of an angel, or different things like that, a fallen angel. Well, isn't this a perversion of the lion? And like, for example, I think of like the Lion of Judah, like with being God. But then what do you have coming off of?
Yeah, the goat and the snake.
You have the goat and the snake,
Mhm.
which, if you look in other places of Scripture, well, the snake, the serpent in the Garden of Eden,
Mm-hmm.
Genesis, kind of brood of vipers, different things like that, often not in positive connotation.
Yep.
And then you have the rams, or like I think of God as a shepherd, different things like that. Then you have the rams or the oh man, I can't think. It's not like the lambs, but it's those I never knew you.
Yeah. Sheep and the goats.
The sheep and the goats, yeah. Or obviously I think of satyrs as well, part goat, different things like that. So when we think of, let's say devil's horns, what are they? Well, they're ram's horns, or they're goat's horns, or whatever you want to call it. So it's interesting that this particular chimera, the chimera that we often typically think of as a chimera, like the prototypical example, I could almost tie in different things. Now, could I just be talking out of my butt? Sure.
Yeah.
But it's something I just noticed now, and it's got like the spines on the back or whatever, if you want to call it dragon-like, if you want. At that point, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's interesting.
Well, and talking about two of those three animals being, kind of aspects of the devil or Satan or whatever. Even First or Second Peter, I forget which one, talks about Satan wanders around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. So even that could tie into that as well. Yeah. It's a perversion of the lion.
Yeah. Again, it's a perversion of something that is natural into something that is a deviation from that. It might still be natural in some sense, but at the same time, it's very much not. And then that kind of ties into Nephilim, or giants, Cyclops. What are they? Well, if you looked at what we talked about earlier with Nephilim, they're sons of God, or different things like that. So whether that means they were spawn of, the fallen angels in humanity, or whatever it is. Either way, it's a perversion of what is right. So, corrupted, twisted. A chimera of sorts. Now, that's obviously one perspective, as we were talking about with the Nephilim. But it's something that came to mind, and also some interesting things that tie into this, especially when we look at giants not just in the Bible, but elsewhere, and some of the characteristics. And obviously, you have Cyclops as kind of one of these, we'll call it deviants of giant. It's just basically a giant with one eye. They have the same everything else, it's just they have one eye. And something that's interesting, is, and you'll see this in the Bible, I didn't mention it, I might have mentioned it briefly in Nephilim, but when there's often different characteristics that define giants as you see them in the Bible. So, for example, with the group of giants that were taken out in Gath, basically, that you read in the Chronicles, they gave descriptions of some of the giants that were taken out. One of which had 6 fingers and 6 toes on each, well, hand and foot, respectively. There's things that aren't normal. There's things that may be a little bit different than normal, as you would think of as a human. Now, obviously, some of these things could be, blood related. There's mutations. We know there's people with like less than 5 digits on their hands, or more than, or whatever it may be. I mean, you see even in the animal kingdom things with 2 heads. You even see that for humans sometimes. Now, does it mean it's perverted? Not necessarily.
No.
But it's also showing that those kind of things exist.
Yeah.
And they can be passed down hereditarily. But often they don't because, well, they often don't survive. But if they were to survive, a lot of these characteristics may or may not be passed down. So, for Cyclops, for example, you have one eye. Well, if that's all you have, one eye, and that trait gets passed down over and over again, congratulations, you have a race of something you would call a Cyclops.
Right. Which, I mean, all of this kind of also ties into what we were talking about last week with the Griffins, because one of the things that I found about Griffins is that they're at war, constant war battles or whatever, but these Arimaspians, I finally remembered it. Struggled remembering that name. But there are people of, northern Scythia that always had one eye. So there's kind of like a real life, I don't know.
Take it for what you want.
Yeah. I don't know, it could be some origin of the Cyclops, or, there's some comparison or parallel there.
Yeah, obviously there's other stories as to how the Cyclops came about. Some people think it's, they saw a mastodon fossil of the skull and thought, that's the head of a Cyclops right there, because, the place where the trunk is was a big gaping hole, and they're like, that's the eye. The eye socket.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much credibility I want to put in something like that. I mean, I feel like for some people, they're grasping at straws, like for scientists to explain how these things came about. Because it's like, I think you're grasping at straws to say, they'll take this thing and they run with it in whatever direction they want. Sure, maybe that could be in the case, and they make the same claim for dragons as well. They're like, they just saw some bones of dinosaurs and then ran with it. But you're discrediting the fact that maybe they actually saw these things living, not deceased and bones. So, I don't know. It's almost a discredit to some of the stories. But at the same time, you can't necessarily discount it for the fact of, we weren't there at that time, so we don't actually know.
No.
The only thing we have remaining are the stories and things that are written down. So the things that we know today, that's exactly what we knew, because of what we found.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously new things are being discovered here and there. And then it's like, why haven't we found the bones of fill in the blank? Well, if people kept using it for medicine or different things like that, of course you wouldn't see it, because it would be ground into powder. Or different things like that, where they would fetch a high price. They would use it for different things. Just look at any fantasy novel everywhere. Maybe somebody wanted to use it as a sword. Who knows? Or use it in brewing potions or different things. Like black magic was definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Potion brewing, witch hunts, different things like that. All that kind of stuff existed in the world. We know it. So things like that, not too far-fetched to me. But again, going back to like giants, there's different characteristics to them, and what does that maybe even look like? So something that I'm going to tie this into the Bible again. When I think of something, and now this isn't a giant per se, but this is talking about demons in general. So you can have these great things attributed to you, but there's often a cost. There's also a price to pay. I mean, that's kind of the whole gimmick of demons. All you gotta pay a price to,
Right.
Get whatever the heck you want or desire. Though some of these are mainly just afflictions. So one of the stories that I thought of when I was kind of thinking of this, and the future things down the road where we'll talk about, I thought about the Legion of Demons. That's within a guy that Jesus cast out the demons into a herd of pigs, and they go, "We want to go for a swim now because we want to get away." And basically the demons are like, "Please send us into the pigs." And he's like, "Okay," because they have to ask Jesus to, please let us leave.
Yeah. Ultimate authority.
Now I gotta go find where I put it. And I hope I put, okay, here it is. Yeah, Mark 5, 1 through 20. That's where it is. So if you guys are interested, it's Mark 5, 1 through 20, which is the Legion of Demons. So one of the things that the guy that had been afflicted with the Legion of Demons is he had super strength and wasn't of right mind. As in, he was chained up, latched into like a tube, where they're like, "Yeah, stay there, don't deal with us." And yeah, it was bad. So when basically Jesus cast out the demons, he came to the town. He's of right mind. He's like, "Hey guys," and then everybody's like, "We're scared.
Yeah.
Get away from us now." It's like he was cuckoo in the head, and now he's like, all right and fine. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And this kind of led me to think of, again, the Nephilim aspect of, the perversion, fallen angels, and humans copulating or whatever. And obviously fallen angels in that aspect would be demons, if you will. So what's something that they could have? Super strength, couple of these other things that are often associated with giants. Size being obviously a factor as well, but wasn't necessarily defined by size. So some giants or cyclops that you'll see in other myths and legends weren't necessarily massive. Some of them were about the same size as humans. They just had different aspects to them that allowed them to be different, whether that be super strength or different things like that, or maybe horns on their heads or whatever.
I think the Jotnar in Norse mythology is a perfect example of that. They have the giant of the race, or the race of giants, but
like frost giants and all that.
yeah, a lot of them were human size though.
So, for an example, Jotnar. That's on the bottom left there with Thor. Obviously, it's an artist depiction. It's not truly. This is not what you saw in the artwork of that day.
No, I remember that. I saw it.
I was there. Yeah.
It looks exactly how it was.
And then kind of
Medieval
Roman, Greek, or whatever Greco-Roman depiction of the Cyclops in the middle there.
Yep.
And then Dragon Quest.
And then Dragon Quest. Obviously, it kind of looks more troll or whatever like. Obviously, that's a gross difference of what.
Very much an artist.
Yes, it's an artist rendition of the Greco-Roman depiction of what a Cyclops is. So a little bit different.
He looks just happy to be here, though.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
He's having a good time.
He's got a club, and he just wants to play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He's just
With
looking at
tiny
you
fingers.
as being. He's just looking at you as being the baseball.
Right.
But he's happy to be there.
Well, I love the curatorial's art.
Everything looks so happy,
Yeah.
even when they want to kill you.
But yeah. So that is that. Another one I wanted to bring up, and I don't have this as a slide, but I thought it was interesting, especially going to kind of what we talked about a little bit with Medusa. And again, the Roman depiction of what it may have looked like, going back to the urn and the Oni looking thing. So speaking of Onis,
Yeah.
I also included this as a giant as well. Because, again, super strength has that aspect to it. Also has, the obvious horns and everything. And, maybe it's as blue as the Cyclops there from Dragon Quest. Blue Oni, red Oni, different things like that. But and I wanted to read a brief description of, maybe it's not brief, but
It's 12 pages.
Here's a dissertation on Oni.
this is what Wikipedia says, so I guess you can take it or leave it, I guess. But I did think it was interesting. Obviously, I could probably look elsewhere for it as well, but I've seen it in different culture and different things like that. So manga, anime. Obviously, they differ because some look of it in a favorable light, looking at you reincarnated as a slime. But so an Oni is a kind of yokai, demon, orc, ogre, or troll in Japanese folklore. That's quite a few things.
Yeah.
So-
Different things.
yeah, it's a little bit different, but like for me, I'm like, what's so like you could throw giant in the mix too, and it's just as similar.
Right.
So they're believed to live in caves or deep in the mountains or in hell. Oni are known for their superhuman strength and have been associated with powers like thunder and lightning, along with their evil nature manifesting in a propensity for, killing people and cannibalism. They are typically portrayed as hulking figures with one or more horns growing out of their heads, massive teeth, and occasionally a third eye in the center of their forehead. That sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah.
Just look at that middle image right there. I wonder what that could be. So they are typically depicted with red, blue, black, or yellow skin, wearing loincloths of tiger pelt and carrying iron clubs. They also have, and this is also interesting, they also have 3 to 6 digits on each hand. So, again, another perversion of what's normal.
Yep.
And foot tipped with claw-like nails. Oni are able to change their looks to fool their victims into trusting them. Sounds like Loki. Oni can be male or female, but have been predominantly male throughout history. Just as, like, when you think of demons, what do you think of? Well, typically you think of the male figure there. And then the female thing. But another interesting thing is, as monstrous as Oni are, they have been linked to bringing good fortune and wealth.
Cannibalism, good fortune, wealth. I mean, they've got it all.
But, and I know you mentioned this briefly, Jonathan, on a different episode, and whether or not it was on the episode or after, I don't even remember anymore. But having that good fortune and wealth, maybe for...
That was after the episode.
Yeah, it wasn't after.
Okay, yeah.
It might be for an earthly or worldly perspective. So, obviously, with the devil, a lot of the worldly stuff, A-okay.
What I was gonna say, because
So money, greed, all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
par for the course.
as we're kind of talking about Oni, I mean, I don't know a lot, but you kind of typically see like yokai and stuff like that kind of associated with kind of the spiritual side of
yes.
Japanese mythology. And again, you're making a comparison with like Nephilim and stuff. Like, I don't know, that seems like there could be some sort of connection there. Because,
well, yeah, it's that spiritual side, that heightened spiritual awareness. You see that with the Japanese, and you see some of that influence also scattered throughout. Especially, like, you look at Medusa and you look at the Oni, like, huh?
Yeah.
But they look the same. Why is that? Well, they could have been seeing the same thing, just in two completely different areas.
Right.
Now, am I saying that's for sure and that's absolutely what it is? No, because I have no idea. I wasn't there. But it's something that's fascinating that you look at, and you see the spirit. Like, there's some heightened cultures with spiritual awareness. Egypt was one. Japan is another. As two of the probably best examples that we know of in modern culture today. And you see this, like, yokai, demons, all that kind of stuff, like Japan. There's some wacky stuff in the folklore as well, like, oh, I don't know, an umbrella with eyes and stuff like that. Yeah. Obviously, that's not quite realistic, but it does show like a heightened spiritual awareness. One way or another. There's like, and even the idea of yin-yang, good and evil, like all that kind of stuff exists. Like even within Chinese myth, there's a lot of different weird, wacky stuff. They're like, that doesn't seem like it would be on this planet. But again, that's another place of spiritual awareness. Like, maybe we don't see it because maybe we're not in contact with the same kind of spirits and stuff that they're coming into contact with. We know, like, mediums and stuff like that existed throughout history.
Well, I think the interesting part, too, is you mentioned when you were reading that, oh, well, they can shapeshift to,
Sound familiar?
It's just like, I mean, yeah, spirits could appear, or, demons could appear one way to one culture and another way to another culture to, lure people to do what, they want them to do. It's just a thought.
Or it even brings me back to the story of Fafnir again.
Yep.
It's the dwarves that turn into whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people keep coming up with these things that people turn into a bunch of stuff throughout everywhere, in all mythologies everywhere,
Right.
anthropomorphic everything? Why is that? Could it maybe be because they're seeing the spiritual side of things elsewhere, and you just see it trickle through culture and culture and culture, and you see it depicted different ways because they're in different cultures,
Right.
So they identify with different things. So in one sense, you have the Quetzalcoatlus.
Mm-hmm.
Another sense, you have a phoenix. Other places, you have different things like that. Well, sure, maybe it's not a super scientific approach to things by taking stories and taking a look at things. But at the same time, I don't think you can discredit those stories. Because I'm kind of the belief that they have to stem from some form of truth. Now, whether you want to look at that truth, like in the example of a griffin, for example, of loyalty and sovereignty and different things like that, and characteristics that are defining of some of these creatures, or if it's actually depicting something that is real, but just gain those metaphors on top of that. It's a lot to think about. So let's scroll down my thing here. I guess I had something on Cyclops, and then I just said nope because there's a lot of words I don't know. But it's on. You can look up Wikipedia for that too. Now we're gonna go into something really bizarre, and then these guys were so confused that they were even on this list as we were talking about giants and everything.
Mothman. No, I was wrong.
Say hello to Sasquatch, Yeti, and Yowie. Yep, totally giants. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. But in all seriousness, they're thought of as being relatively large and human-like.
Right.
Classifies enough as a giant to me, or if you want to call it a chimera, whatever the heck you want to call it. Obviously, Sasquatch, for example, a lot of people think it's a hoax, especially scientists. I don't really know where I stand on it, to be perfectly honest, because in some realm, I could see why it could be out there, and it kind of is a little odd that there's a lot of different things for a lot of similar reasons, like Sasquatch, Yeti, Yowie. They're all the same thing in different locations.
Mhm.
To me, it makes more of an argument of something actually is out there. Whether it still exists or not, that's an entirely different conversation. Now, one of the things that it could be, kind of looking at the top middle image there, could be the giant short-faced bear, thought to have been extinct, obviously. That's how it stood on all fours compared to a human. And then when it stood up, it's about 12 foot tall. Seems pretty giant.
Yeah.
Obviously, so Sasquatch, basically US, Canada, North America, that general area. Yeti, Himalayas. And the Yowie is Australia. Completely different areas. Across the world. Now, there's some speculation. People are like, well, technically, the Yeti and the Sasquatch could have been connected by the Bering Sea land bridge or whatever, so they could theoretically be connected. Okay, then what about the Yowie?
Right.
Well, they're wild men in the Australian outback.
Yeah.
Where everything wants to kill you. Yowies was an interesting one because I never really knew much about the Yowie.
I don't think I've ever heard that term before.
This is the first time I heard about it was going into this.
So I get they're large humanoids, basically. So for the Yowie, something that stood out, obviously it's Aboriginal, and then some scientists or whatever claim, and I don't know, I don't have the exact details or numbers or whatever for this, but they think some of the most ancient quote unquote people that we know of in the world today with their blood type and everything come from Aboriginal Australia. Whether I believe that or not, I don't actually know. But so again, this is from Wikipedia, so take it as you will. I didn't do that deep of research. I'm sorry.
It's on the internet. It's got to be true. Come on.
One, you know that everything about the Sasquatch is true, so
Yeah, absolutely.
there's photographs.
One knocking and everything.
And videos. Come on.
And videos, yeah.
It's not a ghillie suit. What are you talking about? So
I mean, you keep seeing all. Sorry, Brandon. It's another dumb joke. I was going to say, I mean, that they've got the videos now of the Sasquatch talking to people.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely not AI. It's most definitely real.
No. They have him in commercials all the
No, I
time.
know.
He's
all over
Jack
the
Links.
place. He's all over the place, so it's got to be true.
See, now I just see Harry and the Hendersons as a documentary.
Based on a true story.
Yeah, so there's an interesting thing that I found out with Yowie, and something that's interesting is one of the translations is also a Yahoo.
Yeah.
Hey, you Yahoos! I mean, that could be from this, but the Yahoo was an ancient race that once inhabited Australia. This is from an elder, an old Bungari, a Gunada elder. So whatever that means, some Aboriginal something in Australia, I'm guessing. States that it was an ancient race that once inhabited Australia. He describes conflicts between Yahoos, or the Yowies, and Aboriginal people in an event called Dreamtime.
Dreamtime.
So this is where so one of the phrases that to define dream time is like the everywhen.
Yeah, that was fascinating. It's the whole eternal concept.
Yeah, it's this whole eternity kind of. Well, I'm gonna say it this way. It doesn't say this, but spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
Almost between, like, they don't specify it's like good and evil, but it's a spiritual battle between two forces.
Yeah, and they talk about it in the dreaming as like, there are these different races of heroes and stories and legends that come around all that type of stuff too.
Yeah, I didn't look too intensely at it because I was just skimming and trying to find information. I came across that, and I'm like, that sounds an awful lot like, at the end of time, spiritual battle. At the end, forces of good and evil. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but this idea of dream time, this eternal battle, is something that isn't necessarily unique.
Mm-hmm.
You see this even within Norse, with Valhalla and different things like that.
Yep.
It's just interesting, the whole dream time aspect, like almost like you're dreaming, is something that came into mind for me. Again, this spiritual heightened sense. Now, is it because they're eating things that they shouldn't be eating?
Awesome.
That's a mushroom you don't want to. We see things. Woohoo! But it's interesting. And I guess that's all I can say about it. Because I'm trying to think of something else. I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And obviously, the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, thought to have been giant apes.
Mm-hmm.
Or, some other people think it could be I can't even speak. Giant short-faced bear. There we go.
Yeah.
Other people think it could be Gigantopithecus blackie, one of the largest gorillas ever. Also stood about the same height, 12 foot. Thought to have been extinct, again, a while ago. And then, obviously, some people think it's a hoax. Something, I was going to bring this up when we talked about this. Regardless, it doesn't really apply anywhere else, but it's something to think about in terms of, like, Sasquatch. When you think of monkeys or apes on every continent, is it odd that some of the continents that you don't find apes or gorillas are like in the Americas, or specifically North America in like the Rockies, Appalachian, all that stuff? Because you see them in like Mexico and South.
Yep.
But like basically U.S., Canada. So U.S., Canada, and Australia. Isn't that odd? They're like everywhere else.
Like, let us join the club.
Now,
that is interesting, though.
But it's like, okay, so what if they're just getting outcompeted by something much larger? I'm not saying that's true or not,
right?
Because I could just as well see it being a giant short-faced bear. We know bears are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is interesting. Like, people are like, oh, we see the orangutan. We found the orangutan for the first time. Oh my goodness, it's huge. And how did we not see that before? And some people are like, oh, the Sasquatch is just based off of the orangutan. Okay. Whatever you say. Like, oh, there could be larger primates out there. I'm like, maybe there are. Maybe there are indeed. And we just don't see them because they hide in the mountains. Because a lot of these places, specifically with the Himalayas, the Rockies, the Appalachians, where a lot of these, or even, in Alaska, in the mountains, in the wilderness. Yeah, they're in the middle of Timbuktu,
Right.
basically. And then, again, for the Australian outback, they're in the middle of, the outback.
Yeah.
Where everything wants to kill you. So, it's interesting. Again, I went with the interesting thing again. Because I obviously can't think of anything else. So let's go back to the giant conversation. Otherwise, this is just gonna go south. So let's talk about. We'll just get that. We don't need to see that. So, is there anything else about giants that kind of stand out to you, especially when we tie back into Nephilim? I know we kind of touched up on a lot of it, but is there anything else that kind of stands out for you, or kind of sticks out?
Not specific to giants, but I was thinking about like when we were talking about the Oni and how they're mostly more on that demonic side, but there is that but they could be providers of wealth or whatever, treasure and all that stuff, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you see a lot of that in that kind of Eastern mythology where, dragons and like Eastern dragons are often associated with good. There are these protectors, there's bring good fortune, good luck kind of thing. But some have the propensity or the capability to do evil. Whereas you've got these Oni that are primarily evil, but they have some of this capability to do good. Which is just kind of a fascinating thing to me. You bringing up the yin and yang thing. Like even the symbol of yin and yang. You've got one is, yin, but it has that circle of yang in it, and the other, and opposing to that. So there's like everything that has the capability to do good also has, or is primarily doing good, also has the capability to do evil, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Which, when you talk about fallen angels, well,
wow. I
there
mean,
you
isn't
go.
that a perfect dichotomy of that?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I keep saying interesting. I need to come up with a different term to use.
You can list synonyms.
Yeah.
I just needed a list, and I'm like, oh, I used interesting already. Now I can cross that off.
I got you, Brandon. Don't worry.
But yeah, I think especially going back to like the Nagas as well, like again, has this propensity to do good,
Yeah.
because that's typically what it's thought of, but it can also do bad.
Right.
Again, going back to the seraphim idea, where it's like the fallen angels kind of thing.
Yep.
Obviously, kind of from what we take from the Eastern myths and legends and stuff like that, they are much more spiritual minded. So you see that with Hindu, you see that with Japanese culture, you see that with Indian, or again, Hindu is Indian in one of the areas of it. But within that area, and you see that also with Egypt as well, the anthropomorphic side of, well, if you have an animal with you, you can also have an animal with you. How about you? And you, and you, and you, and attribute it to everything that we see around us.
This has turned into an episode of Oprah. You get an animal part. You get an animal part.
Still, Oprah. I want the steak. All right, cool. You can be Hathor. Yeah. Well, I don't know where else I'm gonna go. So, anybody else going once, going twice, and that's it for this episode. See you later.